Hi, I'm Roland Westlick, an RTF student here at ACC, and on tonight's episode of CinemaWorks Late Night, we have Holly Herrick, Head of Film and Creative Media at Austin Film Society. She oversees a lot for the organization in terms of grants and programming at the AFS Cinema, right down the road from our Highland campus. She also gets to work with the local and ridiculously talented writer-director Richard Linklater, who founded the organization in 1985. Thank you, Holly, for being with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the film business?
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be with you in the ACC TV studios. So my name's Holly Herrick. I am the head of film at Austin Film Society. I've been working in the nonprofit side of the film industry since 2005. I started at the Sarasota Film Festival in Florida, where I programmed films for the festival, which means that I was part of the team selecting the movies that would play at the festival each year, and then became a programmer at the Hamptons Film Festival before finding out about the job to run the film department at Austin Film Society, and I came down to Austin in 2012.
All right. So what did you study in college, and why did you study that?
So I actually really discovered my passion for film in college. Prior to that, I grew up in a small town in Maryland and didn't really have access to the world of art film. Like most people who grow up in small towns, I'm sure a lot of folks from Texas can relate. You have, the multiplex where you can go see all the biggest movies from Hollywood, and that's about it. And before the internet, there weren't a whole lot of options. So I didn't know that I loved film until I realized the way that film brings together all these things that I really care about. It is this supreme artistic medium that has a combination of music, art, literature, everything that you can think of about storytelling and visual medium, and a medium that can bring in philosophy and great ideas together in one art form. That to me was just so inspiring. And when I realized that this was sort of the supreme way to interact with all these things I cared about, I knew film was for me. So that happened in college for me. I was studying literature and then kind of found my way into film.
Gotcha. And so what is Austin Film Society's main mission as a nonprofit here in Austin?
So our mission is to make, watch, and love film and creative media, and to encourage the community to make, watch, and love film and creative media. And our vision is really to bring film culture and support the film ecosystem for the city of Austin and the region. So beyond Austin, the Texas filmmaking. So we do that by supporting the industry, and that's efforts that we make through our studio facility at Austin Studios, and also just keeping the engine running for film culture by showing films at the AFS Cinema and bringing great filmmakers to Austin to share their work. At the end of the month, we have Renee Zellweger coming to talk about her work on Judy, for example. We've had wonderful visitors, filmmakers from around the world and from New York and LA frequently visit to present their work at the cinema. And then keeping resources available for independent filmmakers, that we can really have a capital for independent filmmaking. I think people around the country think of Austin as a great place for independent filmmakers to work and live. And the reason for that is that we have this strong community that supports each other, and we also have some infrastructure and some support services to offer to filmmakers, and a lot of that comes through the Austin Film Society. We have this annual grant program for filmmakers, and we try to create and encourage community through our programs and services. Coming to the AFS Cinema or taking a class at Austin Public is a great way to interact with other people in this community and kind of make connections and grow. But the idea is that we have this full ecosystem of support for filmmaking, and that we can have a small industry here that has jobs and generates an economic engine for the city of Austin, but that we also have this very strong artistic backbone, and that this continues to be a capital for independent filmmaking and film culture.
Okay, and you started in the film festivals with your career. Why did you start in the film festival kind of industry, I guess?
So when I was in college, I was watching so many films that I didn't know about and didn't have access to before kind of taking a deep dive into film culture and writing and academic studies. And I wanted there to be a way to share films that weren't easily accessible with the general public, people who wanted to see things that weren't available at their local multiplex. And film festivals seemed like a really great way to do that. They're a beacon for anybody who wants to see something new and different. Film festivals show independent films. They also show foreign films. Oftentimes they show classics or repertory films. They'll look back at a director from many years ago and bring up their work again. So it's a great way to create a dialogue around what is important in the film world. And so that was what drew me to festivals in the first place. And then what drew me to Austin Film Society was this idea that you could create the kind of film culture and energy that happens in the 10 days of a festival on a year-round basis. And I do think that we have that in Austin, which is so special, which is this really alive film culture where you can participate in seeing these films and having these dialogues on a day-to-day basis.
Right, yeah. So like after years of working outside of Texas, what brought you to Austin and to work at the Austin Film Society?
So when I was working at the Sarasota Film Festival, we had independent filmmakers from around the world who would come to show their work with us. And I, one year, discovered these incredible short films that a filmmaker had just put himself online. They were combinations of sort of animations, stop motion animations with narrative and some documentary elements, and they were just the most unusual and beautiful films that I had seen in that year of programming short films. And the filmmaker was from Texas, and I invited him to come and show his films at Sarasota. And when he got there, he said, you know, the reason I was able to come is because I got a grant from the Austin Film Society. They gave me $500 to travel to this festival so I could show my films here, and which is so important to me. The filmmaker's name is David Lowery. He went on to make Ain't Them Bodies Saints, which was a big film that premiered at Sundance, and then directed Pete's Dragon for Disney. He made a ghost story for A24 last year. So the Austin Film Society was involved with David from a really early moment in supporting his work through grants. He was able to make his first feature film with a grant from AFS. And so when I learned about this, I thought that is some of the most innovative work being done as a nonprofit in the US for film. They're funding independent filmmakers, making all these exciting things happen for filmmakers in Texas. And so in 2012, this job opened up to run the film department, which means supporting the artists through the Filmmaker Services Program, as well as running the film programming side at where we do it now at the AFS Cinema. And so I applied for the job because it seemed like a perfect fit. I wanted to work for AFS. I had heard about it, and I got the job at AFS and moved to Austin. It was my third time in Austin. I had been to South by Southwest twice at that point and fell in love with everything that was happening here. So I've been there ever since.
Gotcha. What do you like most about working in your role as head of film and creative media?
I love the work we do with filmmakers. We give grants to filmmakers every year, and we also do lab programs and other services to filmmakers. And so seeing filmmakers on a day-to-day basis and also seeing their work evolve over time and seeing people take those career leaps, that's a really rewarding part of my job. But on the day-to-day, being at the AFS Cinema and showing some of the greatest films from around the world and being able to bring those films to an audience and interact with the audience who are just so grateful and appreciative for the films that we're able to show. That's an incredibly rewarding part of my job. And we also just have a great team at AFS. We are thinking of all these ways to improve infrastructure for filmmaking in Austin through our work at Austin Studios, which is our big studio facility, 20 acres, where we have multiple production companies and multiple productions working all the time. And so it's just a great place to be in terms of thinking innovatively about how we can support filmmakers, the production community, and also the general film culture in Austin.
Well, how involved is the writer Richard Linklater in the Austin Film Society?
So Richard Linklater founded the Austin Film Society in 1985, and back then it was a loose group of people who were self-identified film freaks, who just wanted to see all the films they could and talk about them. And there were a lot of people in that group who were also inspired to be making their own work and were experimenting with filmmaking on Super 8 and 16 millimeter. And so Richard Linklater, kind of with the energy of that group, made Slacker. A lot of the people who were involved in the Film Society early on helped out in Slacker or appeared in the film, and his career continued from there. He remains the artistic director of the organization today, so he is the visionary behind a lot of the work that we do, especially with filmmaker support and the AFS Cinema. If you come to the AFS Cinema on any given night, you might see him there. He's frequently there to just watch a movie, but he is sort of the artistic visionary who is behind a lot of our day-to-day programming.
What kind of grants and funding do you provide to independent filmmakers and writers in Texas looking to create a short, feature-length movie or documentaries?
We have an annual fund called the AFS Grant, which has been around since 1996, and we've awarded almost $2 million in cash to emerging filmmakers throughout the state of Texas. So we have 2 cycles of grant funding. One is for short films, so any film under 40 minutes, and one is for feature-length films, so 40 minutes and above. They can be narrative, documentary, experimental, animation, really any kind of film, as long as it's not a series. They should be a one-off, self-contained film.
Right.
But you can apply either in the fall for the short film grant or in the spring for the feature-length film grant. And this year we will fund about 20 projects by independent filmmakers from throughout the state of Texas. So anyone who is a Texas resident is eligible to apply and receive funding.
And that starts when again?
So the fall cycle just closed, so that was
okay.
for short films.
Gotcha.
And then in the spring, the feature cycle opens in April and closes in June. So you can, we'll have the application online beginning in April, and if you apply basically before June 1st, and then you find out about whether you received the grant in August, and we will notify short filmmakers in December about grants applied for in September.
All right, sounds cool. And then can you tell us a little bit about the film series that you and Richard host at the AFS Cinema annually called Jewels in the Wasteland and why this began?
So Jewels in the Wasteland is a series of 80s cinema that is curated by Richard Linklater and co-hosted by my colleague Lars Nilsson, our lead film programmer, and myself at the AFS Cinema. And what it is a survey of 80s cinema that falls outside of the Hollywood mainstream. And what's important about that is that the 80s have this reputation for having made terrible movies. So you think about sort of the action thrillers of that period and a number of the sort of made-for-TV movies or teen movies that were, copies of The Karate Kid or whatever it may be, and that these films were, by and large, kind of what we might call garbage movies. Some of them are really good, surprisingly, but some of them were sort of Hollywood product that were just made to get out there and make money, and kind of ushered in that wave of Hollywood product of the 90s as well. But it's known as this period for not very good movies. But what Richard Linklater is trying to tell us with this series is actually there's some really amazing films that were made throughout the 80s by some of the auteurs that we celebrate as some of our most important names in cinema. Martin Scorsese and Jean-Luc Godard and everybody from these type names in global cinema to a lot of great American films that were made at the time. And so we look at the 80s through that lens, and we show amazing films from around the world that stood the test of time and just happened to be made in the 1980s.
All right. And so the AFS Cinema and Theaters is right by our Highland campus at ACC.
Yes.
Do students at ACC get a discount?
We have a really amazing program for students. Students in Austin can come to the AFS Cinema for free. So we have a program called the Learn program, which is designed for students. And what you do is if you go to our website, it's austinfilm.org, go to the part of the website that's for the Learn program, and you can send your transcript that shows that you're a full-time enrolled student at ACC. Once you send that to us, we enroll you in the Learn program, which means that you can log into our website and sign up for any movie in our signature program for free. So it's not run by student ID, but it's web-based, and once you're signed up on the web as a Learn program member, you can come to any of the signature programs for free.
Awesome.
And it excludes new releases, and it's easy to tell because the signature programs are usually films that aren't that didn't come out this year. So it's part of our repertory programming.
Gotcha. Well, I'll be making sure to show up for some of those free films. Your husband is a filmmaker at ACC, and he works in the RTF department. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Sure. My husband's name is Michael Tully. He is a filmmaker and also a teacher at ACC. He teaches directing in the RTF department, so directing for film. And he takes his students through the process of directing a short film. So there will be some films that will come out of his class this semester, and some great ones have come out of the last 2 classes. So definitely sign up for his class. He's doing fun things. But he is, we met actually through in the film world. He showed his first film, his first feature film, which was called Cocaine Angel, which he made in 2005, 2006 at the Sarasota Film Festival. And we got to know each other, and yeah, we met through film. And actually we started dating at the New York Film Festival. So that's another
awesome.
Big part of our history, the New York Film Festival.
So do you guys like ever collaborate on projects together? Or?
We have, yes. So he made, in 2010, he shot a film called Septien that I was an associate producer on. So I worked with the producing team on the marketing and distribution of Septien, which eventually sold to IFC Films and is available from IFC. So you can, and also it's on DVD, I think, at Vulcan Video in town, so you can watch it. And then I was a co-producer on his next film, Ping Pong Summer, and was involved sort of in the development as well as the marketing and distribution of Ping Pong Summer, which came out with Gravitas Ventures and is also available on DVD and on demand, and on Showtime.
Okay, all right. So going back to your role at AFS, you guys also run Austin Public, which is similar to ACC TV, and that it's public media channel broadcast in Austin. Can you tell us a little bit more about it and what people can do and learn there?
Austin Public is a great resource for the community. It is a partnership between Austin Film Society and the City of Austin, and a community media public access television station. So what we have available at Austin Public are classes and equipment, and and the goal is to be able to provide the tools of production to anybody who walks in the door. So if you just have to take a certification course, and then you can use any camera and rent the studio at Austin Public for free. So it's a really amazing way to practice your craft. We have editing facilities there. We have really great cameras, a lot of Sony's and new generation Sony cameras, cinema cameras and lenses and lighting equipment. You can use them on site, or you can check them out, and all of the resources and information about signing up for classes is available at austinfilm.org. So it's a great way, once you complete your course requirements here and you just want to keep practicing, Austin Public is a great way to do that.
All right. And so with with a lot of like the movies that are being made today, what would you say has been some of your like favorite films that you've currently been working on?
Texas films that
right,
we've been involved with. Well, we've had some just amazing films come out of Texas the past few years. And most recently, we supported a film called Bull by Annie Silverstein, which premiered in a certain regard at Cannes. They haven't yet announced who will be distributing the film, but it just won several awards at the Deauville Film Festival in France. So it's making the rounds, and it's an incredible narrative feature that's made outside of Houston about a rodeo clown and a young girl sort of getting into rodeo in South Houston. It's a beautiful movie. Recently, we worked with Patrick and Yvette Lucas and Patrick Bresnan, who are the filmmakers of Pahokee, which is a documentary made in Pahokee, Florida, about the community there. It's one of the biggest high school football towns in the country. They have won the national football competition I think, many times in Pahokee. So this is sort of the basis of the story, is that there's this football community, but it's also incredibly poor and disenfranchised community. And so it tells the story of these high school kids growing up in that community and sort of what's next for them. But it's an unbelievable documentary, and we're so proud to have supported it.
For sure. With the movie, I haven't gotten a chance to see yet, but did you have a chance to help Richard Linklater on the Boyhood movie, or?
So yeah, I can talk about Boyhood. So Boyhood was made by Richard Linklater over 12 years, with the same cast. It won Golden Globe and was nominated for a bunch of Oscars. And it was produced by and large at Austin Studios, which is our production facility here in Central Austin. The film was edited over its 12-year production, and it was all edited at Austin Studios. Sandra Adair was based there at the Detour offices, and was mainly location shot around Texas. So we were watching that film kind of come together over this 12-year period, and when the film came out, we were able to celebrate the release and the success of the film at the Texas Film Awards, which is our annual celebration of Texas icons and legends that happens every March, the night before South by Southwest.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for coming on this show and answering all these questions. And I feel like I'm excited to go watch some free movies at the Austin Film Society.
We would love to have you.
Thank you so much for tuning in with me and my guest from Austin Film Society, Holly Herrick. For more information on Austin Film Society's events and programming, go to austinfilm.org. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me on the show.